You guys keep asking for it, so here it is. It's our ultimate guide to the Guardians of the Galaxy. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Mid Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. And this is one that we've probably been asked for more than any other affiliation breakdown, and it is the Guardians of the Galaxy. And joining me on this journey once again is Mr. Quinn Duggan. Quinn, how the hell are you doing, sir?
Good, I've got McFlurry.
You've got a McFlurry. You're very happy about your McFlurry, aren't you? So guys, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about here, well, we are going to do a deep dive into the Guardians of the Galaxy affiliation. We'll be talking through characters that we want to take, the play style, and that play style is based off the 3 pillars of MCP. Now, if you're not sure what the 3 pillars are, they are support, attrition, and control. And if you want to check out a video that goes into those in more detail, there'll be a link somewhere on the screen about nowish. But Quinn, let's jump straight in to the first roster that we're going to be breaking down. And this is going to be our budget roster, where we're limited to only the core box itself, plus then 3 other boxes that we can take along. And we've got a couple of options, Quinn, with Guardians of the Galaxy. We're quite fortunate that I think all but one of their team members, other than Star-Lord the leader, comes in a duo pack where both characters are part of the affiliation. But we decided to go for, obviously, Star-Lord in CP18. We went with Nebula and Gamora, and we went with Groot and Rocket being our other 2 packs. We could have had Drax, we could have had Ronan, we could have had Angela in there as well if we'd have really wanted. Why those 2, Quinn?
Well, Rocket and Groot are just, like, I feel like they're the core of, like,
Yes.
every Guardians team, right? You know, your core is 8 threat, Groot, Rocket, Star-Lord.
100%, yeah, for me.
You know,
Yeah,
they come with, you know, brilliant team tactics cards. We Are Groot, like, unrestricted healing, very, very good, very rare in this game.
Yes. Yeah.
And also, you know, Deadly Duo, absolutely brilliant. Like, 3 attacks for, like, 2 power apiece. Yeah, you take that every chance you can.
And then Nebula and Gamora. I mean, Gamora's just a powerhouse anyway. She's a great 4 threat out of affiliation. She's really good in affiliation. Those wilds just do so much damage. And with dice manipulation from the leadership ability, she just becomes even better. And then Nebula, I mean, I did the Who Hits the Hardest video. She's a 2 threat that if you attack using her spender, shock sword assault that doesn't dish out shock. She is on par with Magneto as long as the person you're attacking is holding an objective or contesting an objective.
She's potentially better though, right? Because it's energy versus physical.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. Well, on average, she will be, yeah, absolutely. Rounding out the list then, because we only had 5 affiliated characters with us, so we're going to be taking Zemo. I mean, doubling down.
I'm sure everyone at home is shocked by this revelation.
Do we need to go into any further detail? Black Widow as another 2 threat. In honesty, I don't really see it being played too often. Captain Marvel, Iron Man, and Dr. Octopus rounding out the list. So we've seen those characters, Quinn, sort of the core 4, if you like, from the core box, being Zemo, Widow, Marvel, and Doc Ock. And we've obviously added in Iron Man. I think we toyed with the idea, didn't we, of Parker and Iron Man? But I think we kind of figured that Iron Man, in kind of a way, took that role of Drax, who we couldn't bring with us this time round.
He's tanky, he's got the damage reduction.
He's got the push as well, which is quite nice.
Yeah. So, you know, sort of that control that you get from Drax, but in Iron Man form. You know, also, he's another 3 threat, which you probably want.
Yep, yeah. And there's not really, you know, we're quite a ranged team, aren't we, with Guardians? And the 2 characters in this list who are not ranged, being Nebula and Gamora, they can get there themselves. They don't need Peter Parker pulling people towards them because, you want to keep people as far away from your other characters as possible because, as we'll go into, they're not the tankiest of factions, affiliations. Sorry. Tactics cards then, Quinn. We have got Crew of the Milano, Deadly Duo, We Are Groot, Daughters of Thanos, Medpack, brace for impact, disarm, sacrifice, trip up, and mission objective. Crew of the Milano, the only affiliated tactics card that we've taken. And the reason for that is the other one, which was a surprise to me, even though I've been playing Guardians now for, well, the whole of this year. It comes in the Angela box, which I didn't realise.
You weren't very happy when you heard that, were you?
I really wasn't. Crew of the Milano, Quinn, I want to talk about some of the players on that card. And it is lessened a little bit by not having...
I imagine
misfits, but
the first one you're going to talk about is probably Interweb Warriors, right?
Yes, yeah, 100%. Interweb Warriors, they do their big play where they put slows down, and you just go, okay, bye.
you get to have one activation with 2+ attack.
Yeah,
the rest of them, no.
Also, anything that dishes out conditions, demons. What's the one that does the Terrigen with the poison?
Memphis with stun.
Yeah, but the key thing here as well that a lot of people don't often remember is the kicker on the back end with it. Is that yes, they can pay to remove, but they also then cannot take any more condition tokens that round, which can be massive. Can be absolutely massive if you've got characters that can dish out stagger or bleed. Anything really. So timed right, it could be really good. As I say, there's a great timing spot in it, and we'll go into it during the next roster.
We could also see it as a preemptive counter to like Whims of Chaos for a round, potentially. Yeah. Like if you plan on killing Scarlet Witch that round, like taking her off the board completely, you pop that immediately. Now they have a dead tactics card, assuming you actually finish the job with Wanda, which is pretty cool.
Which with this list is not very hard. Daughters of Thanos, Quinn, it's in there. It's not the best of cards anymore. It's one of the cards that got reduced. So they told us it was going from 2 power to 1 power, and then it didn't. So
there was a very brief window where it was actually really good.
Yeah.
And then they went, got you. No, not being changed. Fuck you, Quinn.
Two cards I want to talk about, Quinn. You mentioned them both earlier anyway. Deadly Duo and We Are Groot. Let's say We Are Groot first, because this catches a lot of people off guard who I've come up against it, because Guardians didn't have a lot of play before the changes, before 1.5. And I still think there's things with Guardians that are catching people out. But We Are Groot, a range 4 heal, costs 2 power, 3 power, I think it is. 2 power, 3 power. And costs 3 power. And everyone within range 4 heals 2 or removes 2 damage. Obviously, allied characters
really catches me out about that card. And even though I played Guardians
him as well. Card, yeah, it heals Groot.
Range 4, I feel like it's... In my head, it's range 3 because it's 3 power, but it's range 4, which is ludicrous.
And now the fact that we've had that huge increase in range between Rocket and Groot. We've gone through it before, we won't go through it again. So, his bodyguard is now 2, his strike is now 3. Just means that you've got so much more flexibility with where you can have these characters on the board. And that can be clutch. That heal can be clutch. Really, really good. Deadly Duo, as you mentioned, 3 attacks for 4 power. More often than not, you're getting that power back on Rocket, and it doesn't cost an action. So he can then, I've done that before, Quinn, where I've done my 3 attacks. I've generated enough power to then do 2 Hadron Enforcers, which is very, very possible. And the fact that all of these are range 5 just makes it so much easier to get a hold of people. Medpack, obviously one of the other benefits of taking Nebula and Gamora is that in CP16 we also get Medpack, which is really nice. And we've also got Brace for Impact as well. These guys are susceptible to throws and other such things, so it's a nice card to have. One thing to mention actually is on the leadership ability. Is that it does include dodge rolls as well, which is quite unique. I think it's the only leadership ability that lets you reroll dodge rolls.
I think it's the only effect in the game that allows you to reroll dodges.
It could be, yeah, it could be. And then we've taken disarm, sacrifice, trip up, and mission objective to sort of round it out. They're useful. you've got some really good cards there. It's unlikely that in this list you're not going to be taking Deadly Duo, We Are Groot, Medpack, Brace for Impact, and then either Daughters or Crew. So how often those other cards get played, I'm not too sure. But, we take 10. Quinn, Crisis cards, we don't have any... Well, we do have Crisis cards in these packs, Quinn, don't we?
Are you talking about the ill-fated Panic?
Ill-fated Panic. So that did come in CP18 in Star-Lord, but as we know now, that's a banned. It's a banned card. It's the one where if you got to, was it 6 power it cost, Quinn? You could pay the 6 power and then you immediately gained 2 VPs.
And the token came off the board, which was actually really important because not only were you holding it and gaining a lead that way, but then you were cashing it in for 2 VPs, which, that's a lot. It's an eighth of what you need to win the game. But then beyond that, you were also removing the potential for your opponent to catch up.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why I'm still not sure why Deadly Legacy hasn't had any sort of changes, because that does exactly the same thing.
Because AMG apparently just don't understand that that's a bad card. It shouldn't be in the game. No.
So we're stuck with the 4 the 6 from the core box, should I say? So Struggle for the Q, Skrulls, Spider Infected, Deadly Meteors, Infinity Formula, Riot Sparks. We're not too concerned really about any of these. I would say, Quinn, the one that I wouldn't want to come up with or come up against out of all of these is probably Infinity Formula, and the only reason for that is I don't like my opponents getting heals. Yes, I know.
You mean Extremis?
Sorry, Extremis. Yeah, sorry, Riot Sparks over Extremis. Yes, I always get them two mixed up. Yeah, because Infinity Formula obviously gives you another power. Yeah, I don't like my opponents getting heals. I've got loads of heals. I don't want my opponent to have them.
Well, it sort of devalues your own, right? Which is the angle you're coming from.
So let's go into the play style next then, Quinn. And it's a bit of a strange one, Guardians, because they are very, very much a attrition list, but they have so much support, and it's partly down to those tokens that that Star-Lord dishes out. The fact, as we mentioned, they can be used to re-roll anything, and when we say anything, it's attack, defense, and dodge rolls. You can't use them to re-roll when you're trying to find the Skrull or the core or anything like that, which would be really cool. So as we can see, far more heavily weighted towards attrition and support, and then really in this list, we don't have much control. Yes, Groot has a throw, but it's his big spender, so you don't get to do that too often. Maybe once or twice in a game. And don't get me wrong, it's a great spender. I think it's 5 power, throw of any size, and a guaranteed stagger. On I think it's 8 dice.
8 dice, range 2, like you said, stagger, and it's medium throw as well.
It's a medium throw, which is really, really nice. But yeah, other than then, I think we've got Iron Man in there and Doc Ock, who've got some throws and things and pushes. Throws and pushes between them. But really, it's not. We're not a control list. We don't really have kind of an answer to that side of it. So, very much more on the attrition side, but scoring really well and a sort of play style into the support side as well. Pros, Quinn. Let's start off with the absolute amazing position that they are in when it comes to squad selection, and the fact that they have got both Nebula and Rocket as affiliated 2 threats, which I want to say Cabal are the only other affiliation with Bob and
Cabal
Bullseye.
have Bob and Bullseye.
I don't think there's anybody else.
No, not that I can recall.
Oh, A-Force.
A-Force,
Yep, A-Force as well. Yeah. But what I would say is 2 A+ tier.
Yeah, I mean,
as well.
Bob, you don't really want to take, just because he's a bit of a meme character. Let's be honest.
And then, a little bit. He can do some work in certain situations.
I feel Widow and Okoye are both sort of okay, but
Yeah,
like
I mean,
they're
in
not.
A-Force, Okoye is pretty good, but these two are very splashable characters as well. You see them put around a lot. They deal the damage. So, and having that, we just spoke earlier, we can have a core of 7 at 3 characters. Not so much in this list because there's not really much of an option to then add in big hitters because we don't have access to any. But just that alone, let's throw Groot in there as well at 10. So we've got a core of 10
4
there.
characters at 10 is
Crazy, absolutely
considering
crazy.
like the old like mega powerful Wakanda was like 3 characters at 9. For one more threat, you get an entire extra character. Ooh.
Yeah, and they can do a job as well. 3-threat leader. It's something that I think we've spoke about previously potentially, but there's it plays into what we just said, doesn't it? That 3-threat leader opens up the possibility for so many other options. And let's be honest now, a pretty good leader with a very good leadership ability. The one thing I have to remember more than anything is handing out the tokens, because I forget to do it all the time during the power phase. So that's the key thing, is remembering. And I really like, Quinn, that those tokens, if you've got a character, the number of times I've given them to Groot, knowing that he's going to be the target, whether somebody's tagging Rocket or not, but he's usually there at the forefront.
Yeah.
He's typically holding some objectives because he's got that heal. It's such a good leadership ability now, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Like it's so versatile, right?
Yeah. It's a great word to describe it, because it really is. And then the last pro then is, whilst, and we'll go on to how squishy the affiliated characters are, because they really are. They do manage that with quite a lot of healing, and whether that's self-sustain from the likes of Groot. And I've spoken to you before, haven't I, Quinn, that if my opponent does less than 3 damage to me,
they've given him power for free.
I'm in
basically.
credit for free power, because he spends 2 power to remove 3 damage, which is just crazy. Nebula heals heals a damage at the beginning of every single turn. It's like a reverse healing factor, if you like. Which I don't feel like there's much of a benefit, unless, I suppose the other time is if you're coming up against someone who's got a reactive ability, and they could a Sabretooth or a Venom or something like that, you've already healed it, therefore it doesn't matter, because bleed, can she bleed anyway? I don't think
she can't, because she's a big robot woman.
So I don't really see. The other thing it means is that she misses out on healing factor card, right? Which makes sense because it's not that. But yeah, so much healing. We've then got on top of that, obviously, med pack for an individual big heal, and then we've got We Are Groot. Onto the cons then, Quinn, because they are not without them. One that we've already mentioned. Very squishy affiliated characters, at least with the 5 that we've taken here. I think the only character with more than 3 in a single defense is Groot on his physical, but then he's 2 on his energy. Most others are, I mean, we've got some things, right? Groot and Rocket, we've solved that problem with just picking Groot and throwing him into Rocket. That's gone. So obviously there's no collision damage for Rocket there. Rocket does have cover always. And for anyone who's wondering, the rule of 2 does not apply to Rocket. The only way
are we Sith now?
Well, yeah, the rule of 2 doesn't apply to Rocket. That's only terrain. The only time you can stop Rocket from getting cover is if you've got a character like a Venom, where it stops your opponent from modifying dice.
Or, for example, the Captain Americas, because they specify you don't benefit from cover.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's something that
will
says
overrule that.
Yeah, something that overrules always overrules. But so they can, they can come off, but on average, these guys are squishy. You want to keep them out of trouble for the most part. As I say, with the exception of Groot.
As we mentioned, we have like this sort of plethora of healing, but they are sort of vulnerable to like being focus fired as well.
They are, yeah, they really, really are. And taking Star-Lord out of the game, which can be quite easy. does then hamper these guys quite considerably, because those rerolls they're really, really needed for some of these
they're
guys
really
to pop
important.
off. Yeah. No big hitters. Yes, we've got Gamora. She is a great 4 threat. Her deadliest woman in the galaxy really, really does help her eke out some extra damage, but her maximum attack is 6, and that rapid strike has to go in to another character. So it makes it a lot harder to, as you said, Quinn, there's quite often a single character you want to take down. And she's great at, she's a bit like a Corvus. She's great at taking down multiple lower threat characters or smaller characters, but focus fire into a single one she can struggle with sometimes. So I do see that as a downside. And then lastly is no mystic attacks, which isn't the be all and end all for these guys.
No, it's relatively common throughout these 3-box sort of starter affiliations, because there's none in the core box, which means that if it's not like a relatively large part of your affiliation identity, you're usually just not going to get it.
No, exactly that. So let's then look quickly, Quinn, at the 4 packs that we've used for this one. So CP01, CP18, CP16, and CP17. All in order there, Quinn. 16, 17, 18. That may be back in the good old days when they actually released things in a sensible order. So coming in at a grand total of £214, sorry, $214 even, and 80 cents. But as we said before, guys, you're never going to pay this amount of money for them. $99.95 there for the core box. Most local gaming stores are going to be giving 15, 20, 25% discount. And if you are in the UK and you're looking to pick any of these up, you should most definitely check out Elysium War Games, sponsor of the channel. Have helped us out with loads and loads of things in the past. There'll be a link down in the description below over to those guys. Quinn, on to the final 4 parts then. And starting with that cost piece, they're coming in at 200-ish mark, $1 out of 5 for me. I'm not saying that $214 is insignificant, but in the context of building a full roster for this game, it's right. It's right there as the sort of cheapest ones that you're going to get. This may be the cheapest actually, because we've got Star-Lord in as a single character pack at only $34.95. Maybe A-Force. Maybe A-Force eked them out.
I mean, I imagine A-Force are sort of rivaling them, aren't they?
Yeah.
There aren't any other single box leaders I can think of that aren't like the higher tiers, like Dormammu and stuff.
Thanos, but yeah. So right in at $1 out of 5 there. Next one is difficulty. So how difficult is this affiliation to play? I'm going to say, Quinn, that this is fairly easy to play. There's no real complex mechanics in the game. The only thing you're really going to have to worry about is which target is going to be your focus. Because as you say, with this roster, you tend to put Rocket and Groot on one side, Star-Lord somewhere in the middle to then make a decision. And then, Nebula and Gamora, let's say you've got on a threat for Nebula and Gamora then on the other side. You've got those very static pairings, haven't you? Because you've got Deadly Duo on one side and you've got Daughters of Thanos on the other that you're going to be able to use. It's really just understanding how they match up against their counterparts and making sure that you get a good matchup. You don't want to be putting Groot on one side, for example, where there's a huge amount of energy attacks, because he's only got 2 energy.
Specifically, I think a really bad matchup for those two is Captain Marvel, right?
Yeah, Captain Marvel is a really bad matchup.
I mean, as you know from the X-Force v A-Force game.
I do indeed. Yes, I do indeed. So that's the one thing, and then really prioritizing who you want to put your tokens on, and you can't really say, oh, he's definitely this character, because it's very much dependent. Turn 1 for me, typically, Quinn, 1 goes on Rocket because he's got that range 5. I then tend to throw 1 on Nebula and tend to throw 1 on Gamora, just because they've both got the long moves and the range 3 attacks. So they're a little more likely to be able to get get them off
Yeah, I
turn
mean,
one.
like you said, it's really difficult to sort of give advice as to do this on this turn, this on this turn.
It's
I mean, quite simply, you have to wing it.
you do have to wing it. So for difficulty, then we are scoring them 2 skulls out of 5. Queen, on to adaptability then. And these guys really tick all those boxes that we spoke about before, right? 3 threat leaders, 2 threat characters in affiliation. They've got 2 of them. They can just rock up to almost any scenario, can't they? And just play their game without being forced into doing what the opponent wants to do.
Yeah, and it's not like they're ever going to struggle for numbers, right? Like at 14 threat, you take all 5 of the Guardians characters in this list, and it's like, oh, that's a little bit spooky.
It is indeed. Yeah, it is indeed. So for adaptability, Quinn, we are giving them 4 wilds out of 5. So that leaves us then with just the final score. So we add all of those things up. We look at the play style, how good they are at each thing, the adaptability, the cost, the ease of play, and everything else. And these guys are coming out, Quinn, with a total score of 6.1, and that's out of 10. Now, for anyone going, oh my God, that's really, really low. We thought Guardians were really, really good. For a budget roster, guys, which is what this is, they are, right there in the thick of it. They're as good as Cabal. They're definitely not bottom of the pile with X-Men, but I think what we're going to see, Quinn, with Guardians is potentially the biggest jump, or one of the biggest
rather
jumps.
Staggering.
Because quite often we spoke about on these no money, no object lists, we're just doubling down, and we kind of are, but it's so much different for these guys because we get so much more value. We get to add in an affiliated tactics card that we didn't have access to previously, which is
there
massive.
Is also like a really sort of linchpin out of affiliation piece that's going to show up in a bit.
There most definitely is. Yeah, there most definitely is. But, with this roster, I would say, guys, if you are looking to pivot from the core box into your first Guardians roster, you're not going to be wasting any money on any of these packs, because I think almost everything we've taken here that are Guardians related, maybe with the exception of one tactics card, is going to be making it into our next list. So if you are on a budget and you're looking where to start, I highly recommend here. And with those 5 characters, you're going to be very, very competitive anyway at your local gaming stores and those sorts of things. So Quinn, with all that said, let's go on to my favourite half of these videos, which is I give you all the money in the world and you get to blow it all on MCP characters.
Really sad that that's not how that works in real life.
It doesn't happen like that at all, no.
Maybe the grand finale for the series is you just giving me, every single character's worth in money. I think that's a nice ending. Yeah, we'll do that.
I'm not sure the viewer hours are high enough for me to afford to do that. But
that sounds
anyway,
like a you problem, not a me problem.
Let's go into the no money, no limit, and let's jump straight into the characters, Quinn. So we've got, as I mentioned, guys, we've got Star-Lord, Nebula, Gamora, Rocket, and Groot. So we've taken those core 5 characters with us, but we've added in a few more lovable misfits. See what I did there, Quinn? In the form of Drax and Ronan, 2 characters who I wasn't a fan of pre-coming back to Guardians.
And then I shouted you a bit about Drax, and then you were like, oh, he's actually good.
I still think he could have had a charge. That's what I'm going to say. But, these guys do some work, and it's a stark difference. And the thing I like about this, Quinn, is Drax is like he's almost like a mini Gamora. He does different things, but he's ultimately there. He's ultimately there to murder your opponent, but he does it in a different way, right?
I do also like what you unintentionally did there, by the way.
Which was?
Stark difference, because we've replaced Iron Man with Drax, we said.
We actually did, and that was intentional. Yes.
Yeah, definitely, because of everything I know about you, Rich, I know that was intentional.
Yeah. So, in scenarios, Quinn, where you can't take Gamora, and we'll get onto the big 5-threat reason why you may not have enough threat to take Gamora. Drax is a great substitute for that. Absolutely dishes out the damage. He's far tankier than Gamora is, and he loves those rerolls. Absolutely loves those rerolls for dishing out his throw as well. So yeah, and then Ronan is a really great control piece. Medium move, large base, first of all. So let's not forget how good that is for being able to get around the board. But that universal weapon, I want to say it's called, Quinn. So it's not a builder, it's a zero cost, but range for 5 dice with a push on a wild can be really good.
Shock on damage whilst being energy as well.
Yes, yep, shock on damage as well, which is nice. And we spoke about him before, or we actually mentioned him in the Black Order video, but we're both in agreement, Quinn, aren't we, that Ronan has the highest floor of any character in this game whatsoever.
Well, yeah, because every other character in this game can be taken off the board without ever actually contributing anything other than, getting attacked and maybe moving a bit.
Yeah.
Whereas Ronan has a fun little superpower called the Accuser.
He does. So it lets him, if he's going to be dazed or he's going to be KO'd, before that happens, he can make a short advance, Quinn, I want to say, towards the character who's attacking him, which I think almost guarantees, because of that large base, he's going to be in range 2.
Unless he's being attacked from, range 5, I think so.
The really end of range 5, yeah. But even then, he's got his range 4 attack that he can do as well. But he can do his Kree Justice off the back end of that, which 8 dice energy with stagger on the back end of it, I think
with stun and stagger.
Stun and stagger, yes.
It requires damage, but also there's a wild explosive trigger on it, I believe.
Yes, there is. It's a phenomenal attack anyway, but it means that if he's in the thick of it, and typical example is, he gets mauled down by a Corvus and Proxima, he's going to retaliate with some damage, potentially taking them out.
He's also potentially going to judge them beforehand as well.
Yes, yeah, which he's got 6 health, so he does actually have enough to judge them and then do the Kree Justice, because it only costs 4. So yeah, really, really good. But all in all, Quinn, adding those 2 in, they give us some extra damage, and they really up the control game for Guardians, and affiliated control game as well, which is always really, really nice. Quinn, let's talk about your boy, Jonathan Blaze, which
the bat out of hell himself.
He is such a good 5 threat.
Oh yeah,
he's a really good 5 threat in a lot of affiliations. I would say he is a better 5 threat in Guardians than any other affiliation in the game, including the affiliations that he is affiliated to.
What, Midnight Suns and that other one that has no tactics cards that we don't talk about?
Yeah. Just the way that you play Ghost Rider, you put him in the middle of the board, you sit him there, and more likely than not, he's going to be your last activation. And there are times, Quinn, especially if I'm playing with a Groot or a Drax, I will put the Winging It tokens on Groot, Drax, and Ghost Rider, and I will double move up Drax to the middle point, and I will double move Groot up to the middle point, in the sheer hope that my opponent does 1 damage to both of them. Because that's the 3 power on Ghost Rider.
Then he gets to rev up his motorbike.
Giving him a long move on a medium base, putting him basically anywhere halfway up the board, and then just being able to deal destruction. And it just causes your opponent so many problems. Focus him down. Well, he's got deal with the devil, so he doesn't care about it. Focus his team down. Well, you're just powering him up for a 10 dice penance there into
Not
one of
only
your
that,
big characters.
But one of my favourite abilities on Ghost Rider that Elliot has felt the wrath of is Wicked Judgment.
Criticals, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know, if an opponent, I want to get the wording right on this, Quinn. Is it the character? It's the character attacking has to be within 3.
Character attacking has to be within 3 of Ghost Rider.
Attacking
after the attack,
somebody else.
Somebody else after the attack is resolved. 2 power on Ghost Rider, which he'll have generated 1 because of
the damage.
what that ability is called. But yeah, he'll be paying 2 for every crit in their final roll. They take a damage.
Yep, including, by the way, a failure if you're holding the reality gem, Corvus. So
Yeah.
screw you. That's the only swear I've ever done this one.
But screw you. That's not a
you know,
swear.
I did flip the bird as well to
I
Corvus.
know you did that, but like that's not verbal.
I feel like of all the characters in this game, he deserves it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, he brings some amazing. It's attrition, but Quinn, even without doing anything, it's a form of control because it really does make your opponent go, what to do.
Like it sort of happens the first time, and then the fear's in them, and then like once you've got your claws in.
Yeah, the thing I found that probably works best to deal with him is to murder him multiple times, or just slow him, take him out of the game, slap us if you can dish out slow, slap some conditions on him, throw him across the board. But
Slow is absolutely brutal on him as well, because for those that don't know, Slow says that you always use the short movement template when measuring any sort of movement from them, which means that the advance from Hell on Wheels is no longer long, it's short.
Isn't great. Yeah, isn't great. Quinn, rounding up the roster then, and we really deliberated about these last 2. So what I'm going to say, guys, is I'm going to put a caveat in here is those 8 characters should 100% be in your Guardians roster.
Yeah, I think in our minds they are set in stone, aren't they?
Absolutely set in stone. What I will say is these next 2 characters are most definitely interchangeable with almost any 2 characters in the game, right? Whoever the hell you want. Put Dormammu in there, right? And take up a tactics card slot and, dual affiliate into that dimension. Or don't. Just have him in there to scare the living daylights out of your opponent, thinking that that's what you're going to do. We've gone with 8 threat Thanos with the space and mind gem. Thanos is a powerhouse himself anyway, but being able to turn 1, move a Gamora up, for example, Quinn, so that she can go take a central extract.
Or attack someone on the midline as well is a potential option.
Yeah, or doing Thanos things and moving himself. We went through all of it in the Black Order video, but doing that and bringing them towards Nebula and Gamora just for them to murder is quite a nice thing to be able to do as well. And then we deliberated over this last one, Quinn, quite a lot, but we went in the end with Hood. Now, it's an unconventional choice. It is not a character I have played in Guardians myself, but we worked through it, Quinn, didn't we? And said, well, he's got a really nice Mystic rapid fire. Our only other Mystic attack in here is Ghost Rider. He's 3 threat, big tick box. We like those 3 threat characters. He is a little more difficult to control, but on his Empowered and his Dark Lightning, those abilities, they all need triggers to be able to do. Rerolls are real good for that. His rapid fire needs a hit, so
I need to hit trigger.
He can benefit from that.
Healing as well, like even more healing, just compounding on that. Especially for someone like Ghost Rider who's immune to bleed.
Well, especially a list that is going to be taking Crew of the Milano as well. So the fact that they can't have that bleed. So that's who we went with. That's our 10. But I will absolutely say, Quinn, Thanos and Hood, change them out. I've had fun with X-23 and Hoodie Badger. You could, Quinn, don't listen, Quinn. You could put Corvus and Proxima in. They would work.
Don't do it. You're better than that. I know you are. Except you at the back. You're not better than that. I expect that of you. I'm still disappointed, but I've learned to live with it over the years.
But you absolutely could, Quinn. You've had fun, haven't you, putting in Loki and Thor? Because
I had Space Loki in there. Also Thor is now Captain of the Milano.
Thor is Captain of the Milano, but Thor benefits from those rerolls, right?
Yeah.
He's not in here. This may be one of the few lists he's not actually managed to get into. Zemo. Zemo would work.
Zemo very much fills that slot that Hood's in.
He really, really does, yeah. So, those 8 for us, guys, absolutely 100% nailed on. People may be asking us, why is Angela not in the list? I think there is almost no scenario when playing with Guardians where Angela is going to beat out Ghost Rider in that 5-threat slot. 5-threat spot, and I just can't see any real need to take her.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's on record that I'm not the biggest fan of Angela anyway.
There's some niche things where, if your target's bigger, but
yeah, I mean, she's quite good into other Guardian squads.
Yeah,
and
that's
other
the one
squads
thing I
that
would
want to
say.
go wide, but
mirror match.
I've never really been very impressed with Angela, just because she never seems to be as tanky for me as she is for everyone else.
And like we said, guys, you've got 2 slots free there. If you want to take Angela, fire away, take Angela.
Yep, go for it.
Especially on those mirror matches, Quinn, I do agree. Mirror matches, because as we mentioned, these guys are squishier. She can take out multiple characters in a single turn. So yeah, Team Tactics cards, Quinn. Let's go into them, and we are keeping every single one of the Guardians related cards that we took before. So Crew of the Milano, Deadly Duo, We Are Groot. We're also
we're not keeping Daughters of Thanos, I believe.
Daughters of Thanos has gone. Yes, that is no more. That is the one. We have got Medpack, Brace for Impact, Deal with the Devil. We spoke about Ghost Rider. Indomitable. It's just Indomitable. Blind Obsession. You'll often find Gamora or a Drax on a flank by themselves. Great card to have, especially if you've got priority, which you may not always have with Guardians. And then Marked for Death, again, stopping characters, like a Doctor Strange, for example, Quinn, that can just, re-rolls.
Doctor Strange is always the one I bring up. I mean, also the stealth removal aspect of it. We're seeing a fair bit of Black Cat around at the moment.
Yes,
she's actually kind of like the bane of Guardians, because she stops modifications against her.
She does, yes.
Which is also
and the slow as well.
Yeah, I mean, it stops the wing it rerolls, obviously, that lack of modification. It also stops Deadliest Woman.
It does, yes, yeah, it does do, because that is a dice modification as well. And Quinn, that's only 9 cards, but I've left my favourite card until last, which is the absolute carnage that is Lovable Misfits. For anyone that doesn't know what this card is, any member of the Guardians, so you can't use it on non-affiliated characters, spends 1 power and rolls 1 dice. And I'm going to try and remember them off the top of my head, because I never get them right.
I do know them off the top of my head, so I'm going to quiz you.
On a crit or a wild, that character can make a 0-cost attack or gain 2 power.
Correct.
On a blank or a block, they get to advance short.
Correct.
On a hit, any character within range 3, enemy character within range 3 that is holding or contesting an objective, takes 1 damage.
There we go.
Yeah. And then lastly, and the one that causes all the chaos, is a failure. Everyone, including you that's rolled the die, and any of your affiliated characters, all gain stun. Which can be really good.
Within range 2.
Is it range 2 or range 3? I think it was
within range 2 of that character, it also affects enemy characters as well.
It does, yeah. That last one, Quinn, I spoke about in the first half of the video, some of the synergy with Crew of the Milano. Yeah. I like nothing better than having a Nebula on the back point, rolling a skull, giving everyone stun, and then a couple of other characters whiffing and doing the same, and my opponent being like, ha ha ha, you're all stunned. I just go, Crew of the Milano, everyone gets rid of their stun, but you've got them. And
the really fun part about that, actually, is that Nebula herself is immune to the stun.
Immune to stun, yeah, which is really nice. Lovable Misfit can be an amazing card. we'll go into some of the reasons why it may not be, maybe in the con section. Quinn, Crisis then. Let's start with the extractions. We got Struggle for the Cube, Alien Ship, Fear Grips. Struggle is great. We've got some Groot can hold 3 cubes and have a net 1 power gain every turn because he just heals the damage off himself. Really, really good. Also, 5 objects, 5 things to go collect. We've got lots of characters, so we don't care about that. Alien ship crashes downtown. We're not too concerned about picking up the core turn 1. If our opponent does, we've got some great damage to be able to go focus fire them down. Fear Grips, what's better than Rocket with Deadly Duo rolling 5 dice? That's right, rolling 6 dice.
I am going to continue the trend as well, by the way. I know we've been told not to do it because it's not true. Everyone loves a hammer.
Statistically, more people love a hammer than not. There we go.
Exactly. So if you're in that minority, you're weird.
Then we have taken Demons Downtown, we've taken Cosmic Invasion and Gamma Wave. Cosmic Invasion, I'm not going to go through in detail. If you want to see the turn 1 shenanigans with Ghost Rider and Cosmic Invasion, I'm going to put a video here that goes through all of that. But watch it, enjoy it. It will catch your opponent off guard, and they'll go,
"Yeah,
no, I don't think you get the power." You go, "Rich said I could," and they'll go, "Okay."
No, they won't. They'll go, "Oh, you're listening to that idiot. That
true.
Video doesn't even have Quinn in it, and he's the one that keeps him honest."
This is true. But what are we looking for, Quinn? We're looking for we don't care. Do you know what I'm going to say, Quinn? We don't care. We're not that bothered about what we're coming up against.
No. Did you mention demons, by the way?
I did mention demons, yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And also there is, some synergy there between Ghost Rider and demons, immune to incinerate.
Well, and Crew of the Milano. Right?
Yeah.
Take it off and can't get it again, which is a huge swing when it comes to dice that, that's been rolled. Let's have a quick look then at the play style focus. And really, as we can see from this, we have triple down on the attrition side. But they score really high in almost all of the categories. Our control game has increased significantly by adding in Drax and Ronan. And as I say, kind of even without doing anything controlly, Ghost Rider just really makes your opponent have to think about what they're doing. But attrition is the name of the game with Guardians of the Galaxy, and they have it in an absolute abundance. Coming from, and it's not all Quinn necessarily as damage, is it? Sorry, as attacks. We've got lovable misfits that can deal a huge amount of damage. That damage that, that chipping away by Ghost Rider spending 2 power every time you're doing damage. Because, anything more than 5 or 6 dice is probably going to be a crit or 2 in there.
Yeah, the one thing I would warn people to be wary about with regard to Wicked Judgment is making sure that you're not accidentally giving your opponent power to do something that you don't want them to do.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So yeah, very much attrition focus list. Well, as I say, if you wanted to mix it up by increasing the control game, you could very easily put a Loki in there. There's lots of other characters you can choose from to try and increase their control game, and I think the characters that are in there, Quinn, can definitely play around that. And if you wanted to pivot into a more control-y, Guardians list, then that's probably possible to do by putting the right sort of supplementary characters in. Let's have a look at the pros then, Quinn, and we've covered this one off already, but amazing synergy with Ghost Rider. He just fits. It's Cosmic Ghost Rider. He fits in Guardians.
He's got his little space helmet on.
He does.
Great.
He does. Not that does he need? Does Skulls need? Does he need air? I don't know.
I don't think he needs air to breathe. I think it's to make sure the fire doesn't go out.
Maybe.
Because there's no oxygen in space.
That may be it. Yeah, that may be it. As we've also mentioned, Drax and Ronan offer some great affiliated control pieces. When would you want to use Drax? I suppose more typically, when would you want to use Ronan over Gamora. For me, there's a couple of matchups, Quinn. Black Order, 100% Black Order over Gamora. He works really, really well.
Yep.
CS, as a control piece, he can work
Yeah,
really, really well.
into Double Hulk, like you get Judgment on Hulk or She-Hulk, and they're very sad.
And a
Like
stagger as well can be really
conditions
nice.
in general against sort of those very, very tall lists are quite strong. Like, we didn't really mention it with Groot, but like Root is extremely strong.
Root's extremely good. And let's give a shout out to Star-Lord as well, Quinn, who on his full auto, he's one of the few characters in the game that can dish out multiple conditions per wild that he rolls as well.
Yep.
So if you roll 3 wilds, you can dish out those 3 conditions. So that is something else they do have in their arsenal. Cons, Quinn, because there are still some. Obviously, in addition to the other ones, lovable misfits. I love it, but
you are a misfit, Rich.
I am a misfit, but it is RNG. You're never going to have a more swingy thing in a single game. With lovable misfits, I have taken down a Hulk round 1 with Guardians, including 2 attacks that Steve took himself. I've also done nothing with it whatsoever other than stun my own team. So it's when it works well, it can work really well, but you in the hands of the dice gods. So it's something to be wary of. It's not consistent, and that's the thing that can swing a game. And then where I'm going to say they fall down a little bit, Quinn, still is they are susceptible to other attrition lists with some big hitters. Brotherhood, Black Order, even Double Hulk to some extent. They do struggle against those bigger characters. And I think the reason for that is, even though we've added in 5 threat with Ghost Rider, we could talk about Thanos as well, but Ghost Rider for me really sits in the core of that team, Quinn. We can still struggle to take them down. Now there are scenarios where if they have attacked Drax can punch back harder than what a Hulk can punch. Especially if he manages to stay on one, manages to stay alive on 1 health, gives them the vengeance token, and then just rolls like 10 dice, I think it is in total. 10 or 11, I think. Maybe even more.
I think it's 11. 11, I think.
Maybe 11. And we've got the penance there with Ghost Rider, but it's often not enough to take out these big characters. And that is really where I've sort of come unstuck myself, Quinn, is against the big characters. And that may be...
I think you do sort of have to build your squad quite differently to counter those things, don't you? Like, we have pieces like Ronan in the roster, which are definitely, going to be key in trying to help you win those matchups. But like I said, it is sort of like an uphill struggle just based on what Guardians tend to be and what they tend to do, right?
Yeah. They struggle with what most of the spam lists struggle with, and that is they are lower threat, weaker characters overall. Like, that's just the way it is. So, definitely be mindful of who you're coming up against. And especially if you're coming up against those big characters, you want to be taking, Ronan. Ronan probably works better than Gamora, for example, in a lot of those situations. Quinn, on to the packs that we have used, and I'm not going to go through them all. They're listed out there, but coming to a grand total of $674.25. So, most definitely not our most expensive. Maybe one of our no money, no object rosters, and we put Thanos in at $65.
Yeah, I mean, you've also got to factor in that I believe there are at least 2 packs in that list that were bought for the sole intention of taking 1 tactics card. Those 2 packs being Colossus and Magic for Indomitable, and then Angela and Enchantress for this. Oh, and Green
also
Goblin.
Green Goblin. Yeah. And also Mark for Death as well is in there. So, yeah, you could shave off, I mean, $200, maybe even $300 like that just by swapping them out.
If you've got a printer.
No, I don't like that. I joke. But yeah, Quinn, let's go through the final 4 parts of the roster breakdown then, starting with that cost. Even though this roster's coming in at 674, because of the fact that we have included a Thanos, for example, and they are very, very interchangeable, as we've already said, I'm scoring them a little bit higher than I normally would. So on the score front, I'm only giving this one $2.50 out of 5, which is below where that 674 would usually be in terms of how many dollars. But I think, as we said, because it's very interchangeable, we need to take that into consideration. So on to difficulty, Quinn, and this, we are introducing some more elements here, some more mechanics that you need to be able to get your head around, knowing when to use livable misfits, making sure that you are remembering more than anything, Quinn, all the stuff that Ghost Rider does. You know, don't forget to put his power on, don't forget to use Wicked Judgment, make sure that you're not enabling your opponent, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think definitely a step up in terms of difficulty level. So I'm giving this 2.5 skulls out of 5 for the difficulty level. And then lastly, moving on to adaptability. And I think, when it's maybe the most adaptable roster that we put together in the game, and it doesn't even have a second leader, which is the craziest thing. So the moment that your boy Adam is released, Guardians.
But I think you mean the Pirate Angel.
Oh, are we going Adam or Pirate Angel? What do we think?
I mean, I think we're probably getting Adam. That's the thing I wanted to talk about with relation to Guardians. As you know, Rich, I played the Guardians video game relatively recently. It has the goodest boy ever in it, and I love him.
Is Lockjaw in it?
No, Cosmo. He's the best.
Cosmo's in it, right?
It's a psychic dog, but he has a Russian accent. It's brilliant.
Could we see Cosmo for the Guardians?
We could totally see Cosmo. Like, he would be like Jean Grey, but good.
Let us know, comments for this video, guys. Let us know that in the comments below. Which Guardians character do you want to see added next?
Cosmo. The correct answer is Cosmo.
Beta Ray Bill. Anyway, sticking with adaptability, Quinn. These guys are so good. For me, 4.5 wilds out of 5. They can turn up to almost any situation, and they've got part of a plan. See what I did there? You're still going to be dice dependent. They are an attrition list, but make sure you pick the right characters for the right scenario, and you've got a good chance of being able to beat your opponent. Quinn, that leaves us then with the final score for the Guardians. And whilst I would love these guys to be higher, they're my favourite affiliation at the moment. That doesn't mean that they
I wonder why they are, Rich.
That doesn't mean that they are the most competitive. They are a competitive affiliation. You can rock up and win an event with them very, very easily. But they are going to be scoring 8 out of 10 overall. And let's have a look, Quinn, at where that puts them versus everybody else. So we can see that their budget roster coming in at 6.1 is joint second last with Cabal in 14th place. It's still good. It's still fun. You'll notice there, Quinn, that there's not a massive difference. Other than X-Men, way down on 5.1. You've got Avengers, Air Force, Cabal, and Guardians. 6.3, 6.3, 6.1, 6.1.
It's a very tight pack, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah, it really is. The only two that excel there are the Brotherhood and then Black Order. Nobody's going to touch Black Order. We're then coming in at a very respectable 6th place, Quinn, is the Guardians of the Galaxy main roster. They're coming in with 8 points. So just been pipped by Avengers and Air Force in joint 4th place. But I feel like that is a fair sort of board, really, in terms of where each of the affiliations are at the moment.
Yeah, I think like they're all sort of on this even footing, and it is going to come down to player skill at the end of the day.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And there we go, guys. That is our ultimate guide to the Guardians of the Galaxy. And if you check out any of my live streams, because there'll be at least 2, maybe 3 a week now moving forward, because we've got quite a lot of things happening. We've got the TTS League, we've got the Soup Salad Sandwich games that I'm playing at the moment, and we've also got, Quinn, our game on Sunday that we'll be playing. So rounding all of this up with a Black Order versus Guardians.
I mean, I'm not going to be happy playing either of those.
Well, you're either playing with or against, and neither's ideal for you, is it? So if you want to see some playstyle of Guardians of the Galaxy, check out any of my upcoming live streams, or indeed go and check out any of the other battle reports as well, because I think the vast majority of them, like the last 10 or so, have all been Guardians, with the exception, Quinn, of the ones that I do with you. So
yeah, like pretty much like anything that's been done this year isn't going to be Brotherhood, which means it's going to be Guardians.
Yeah, pretty much. Guys, if you have liked this video in any way, shape or form, all we ask is that you give it a like. It really, really does help. And if you could leave us a comment down in the comment section below as well, that also really, really helps with the algorithm. If you want to support the channel even further, we do have a Patreon up and running, and we had just about to start our first live Richmond Gaming Crisis event in the month of March. It'll run for the entire month of March, and it'll be a Patreon only event. So head on over to Patreon and see how you can get involved in that. We also have a Discord. It's completely free of charge to use. We talk about all things regarding MCP, plus a few other things as well. And it's where you'll be able to get hold of these actual battle cards that we've been using today. So you'll be able to download them yourself, use them as an asset, and it's got all of the different cards and everything on there with the CP packs and everything as well. Guys, as always, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.
See you.